Hey everyone, welcome back to our family Zoom night video. This week we're talking all about technology. Technology and boundaries and what it looks like within your family. And so those are some things we're going to consider as we move forward today is what was our family mission statement and how can we actually use technology as a means to bless and honor God? What boundaries do we need to put in place just to curate family rhythms that don't revolve around technology, and just practically share within our groups what this looks like for you within your home?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you some stats right now, and as Bobby and I were talking about this, it's like there's very few positive statistics out there. It's kind of depressing, but we're gonna redeem this and use this as a tool for good. So keep that in mind as you read these statistics next, okay?
Yeah.
The average American checks their phone approximately 144 times a day and spends over 4 hours a day on their phone. Now that's the average American. You transition to start talking about teenagers. Teenagers spend over 7.5 hours on their phone a day without reading and music being included. When you include those numbers, it jumps up to 9 hours and 50 minutes. That means 1/3 of the year, 1/3 of the year is being spent on the phone. Now, there are direct correlations between smartphone usage and anxiety and depression, especially with young people, categorically much higher in girls. So we have to keep that in mind. And lastly, exposure and access to adult content is everywhere. Whether you're on Instagram or Spotify or Twitter, they have quick access to things that are really harmful to their mind and to their heart, regardless of their age. And so one of the things that we keep talking about is formation. Everything that we eat and drink and the relationships we have and the technology we use is forming you and me to become somebody. And so the question then is who are we becoming? And are the apps and the songs and the games we're playing forming us to be the people God created us to be? Or are they forming us to be more like the world? And so when you look at the statistics, there are so many adverse affection results and what word am I looking for? It's forming us to be people that aren't being disciples of Jesus, most importantly. And so when you go back to that Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way they should go, and they'll not depart from it when they're older. There's intentionality there. There's focus. There's a plan. And so when it comes to our phones and our iPads and these kind of things, the TV, sometimes it can be easy for me as a parent just to go, hey, dump this on you guys, you watch it so I can get a couple minutes of respite. But is it being used to help them grow and to become the person we want them to be?
In the book Habits of the Household, they use this line that as parents, we take the pain when it comes to formation, because really that's such a large battle, like Clark was talking about, of parenting, is we are the gatekeepers, we're the shepherds of our family. And so even sometimes when it's difficult to say no, whether that be about sugar or an amusement park or a friend gathering or a sleepover or technology, we're the ones that say no, because that's our job, that's our positioning as a mom or dad in our family, is we're the ones that take the pain. Because what we understand now about technology that we didn't understand years ago when technology was fairly new and there was a lot that everyone was excited about as a tool that we understand now that isn't helpful, whether you look at studies from the US Surgeon General or any kind of database online, is that even when we're not paying attention, so even in passive moments, like you're saying, whether it's the TV's on or the iPad's on or the phone's on, these are moments of formation. Because instead of being disciplined with, our boring moment, we need to entertain. Instead of being disciplined and saying, no, we said after one show, we just have autoplay come on. And so these moments, whether we realize them or not, they are becoming moments where our family is understanding a tone that, oh, this is acceptable or this isn't acceptable. And so if you take a minute and pause and think about your context, because right now, whether there's access to phones in your home or iPads or TVs, what does that look like actually? So much of our school systems require the use of an iPad. What does that look like? What boundaries do you have set up? Think back again to your family mission statement. Think back again to just expectations for health and discipleship within your home. What's in place already? And is it going well or isn't it?
And we want to remind you that tech is a tool. Inherently, these things are not bad. It just comes down to our ability to set boundaries around them and use them for good. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
we feel this pressure to keep our kids entertained and keep them entertained and keep them entertained, where they are not able to be bored. And it's actually out of boredom is where creativity flows. It's out of boredom where people dream. It's out of boredom where they start thinking and processing things differently than when they're just swiping, when the
Right.
Netflix episode goes to the next episode. And so I was reading some statistics, and it wasn't until like the mid to late 1800s that boredom even became a word and a thing. And so who am I to think that, like, how is 2023, 24, 25, whenever you're watching this, how are we more bored today with all the tech advances we have as compared to people who were like hacking down trees and having to go shoot their dinner every night, like, and going to bed when the sun went down because they had one candle in the house? You're like, we're more bored today with self-driving cars and phones that are basically computers in your pocket. But there's something there where if you put boundaries up, you're going to allow the creative juices to flow, but working of the spirit here in your heart and your mind and the heart and mind of your child too. It will allow them to grow and develop skills and maybe even direction as to what do they like? What do they want to do? What are they good at? As opposed
Yeah.
to sitting there all day and just
Well,
watching
even we know that
TV.
with the importance of social just interactions too.
Yeah.
How like so many of our social enjoyments, just person to person, have been lost because we are so connected to technology. And so things to consider there. Another really great book, we mentioned Habits of the Household. Another really great book is called The Tech Wise Family.
Yes, great one.
And Andy Crouch has a quote, it sounds like this: I've come to the conclusion that the more you entertain children, the more bored they will get. And so the more there's a constantly kind of this expectation that mom and dad are gonna, keep me fed with a spoon in front of, with a screen in front of my face, then the less imagination, the less actual space there
Yeah.
is for anything creative. And so what does this look like? When you think about setting boundaries, really think about what we said, curating rhythm, something that's sustainable within your family, that's gonna be helpful for your family, because technology is not going away. It's a useful tool, and it's become part of our society in a way that it's not going anywhere. So then what does this practically look like within your family? And I wanna challenge you to start with you.
Yeah.
When you consider your own phone usage, when you consider how often you're on your work computer, but then you're on your iPad, and how many TVs are in your home, when you take a real honest examination, what does that look like? Are you the 144 touches, like we said earlier? Really, without any kind of, fancying it up. You, mom or dad, what does that look like for you? Because we know so much of what happens in our home is modeled from us. So
Yeah.
much is caught, it's not taught. And so if our children are constantly seeing us reach for the phone, if we don't put it away at dinner time, if we don't set boundaries within our own lives, within our own bedrooms, or whatever those look like, then they're just going to continue to seep into what our children know
Yeah.
as normal.
Yeah, and I'm going to warn you too, there will be a detox period. Last year for
Yeah.
Lent, we actually gave up technology as
Yeah.
a whole, for a whole family, all of Lent. With the exception of Sabbath, going back to rhythms, on Sabbath we got to watch a family movie. We all decided it was communal. We talked about it together. However, the first 3 days of implementing this, you would hear and see our kids writhing on the floor in pain, thinking like the world is coming to an end. But after a day or two, it became the best thing ever. They're outside digging in the dirt, playing together. I feel like kindness was elevated in the home, patience. It became a good thing. And so out of that, we're trying to figure out how can we implement the rhythm and these boundaries. So here are some practical things when it comes to setting up boundaries. One, we're designed for a rhythm in life. And so think through your rhythms. What does that look like? Maybe it's 1 hour a day, maybe it's 1 day a week, maybe it's 1 day a month or a week a year where you're off technology. You're actually going to unplug and say, we're going to take a break.
Consider having a space for especially for your cell phones, because they're so mobile, to go.
Yep.
So when you get home from work, one of the places where Clark or I will put our technology is on top of the fridge. That way, not only do we have to put effort in to go get them, but our kids can't reach them.
Yeah.
They know the phone's up there. They know mom and dad are present. Consider this when you get home from work. Consider this when you go to bed, that if you're gonna go to bed at 10:30, instead of scrolling on your phone while you're in bed, put your phone to bed at 9:30. There's so many things just for your physical health, but more than that, because we realize that it affects us in so many ways. Another thing to consider is keeping your phone in the kitchen or somewhere else while you sleep. So that way you get up and do your morning routine before you even look at any kind of technology.
Yeah, one of the things Andy Crouch says in the book TechWise Family is no screens before double digits, meaning when you wake up in the morning, stay off social media, stay off your phone, your email until 10 a.m. And as you get closer to 10 p.m., shut it down, put it away, put your phone away, and you're going to benefit from it. It's going to be a good thing for you and your kids.
One thing to consider also when you're using technology is how to do it communally.
Yeah.
So there is a difference, we believe, within our home than there's a difference between someone sitting alone in their bedroom with an iPad or a phone, or us watching a show together in our living room. And so consider what that looks like for you. Is this something that we're creating? So maybe we are using an iPad or something. We're creating and doing art with our pen or whatever it is. Or we're doing it communally. So consider what that looks like in your home.
Yeah. Another time, oftentimes, technology is used is in the cars and like van rides, if you're traveling distances or whatever. Try to view car times as times for conversation. Oftentimes, this is where you can have rich and deep conversation, even if they're coming home from school and it's kind of quiet because they're exhausted from a day. Give it a few minutes to breathe, and then you slowly lean into, hey, how was your day? What was the highlight of the day? What was hard? And if we're quiet, oftentimes you can just hear them start to talk, and you'll learn a lot in the car. And so instead of blaring the music or putting on a show or giving them a tablet, something to pass the time by, use the car time for conversation time.
Last one, and all of these suggestions have come from the TechWise Family book. And last one that is important is, especially if you have kids that are teenagers that have their own devices, is that remember this is a privilege. This isn't protected time. This is actually very open and transparent time where mom and dad have the passwords, mom and dad have access to what's going on, and mom and dad are monitoring. We're not just kind of like, oh, you know, it's fine. Some of our elders and one of our elders and his wife, Doug and Christy, actually shared with us their cell phone covenant contract that they put into use with their family, and it just had revealed consequences. So it wasn't a secret, it wasn't any guesswork for what happened if something happened with their cell phone or their technology that wasn't honoring God and wasn't honoring their family, then this is what would happen. So in general, when you think about technology, when you think about curating rhythms, really consider these three main things. Consider your time, consider the content, and consider your communal watching. Those are kind of a good base to start considering and looking at setting boundaries and actually stepping away from more of the technology world and back into just our home world.
And so just to leave you with a couple questions to reflect on and maybe talk to somebody else if you're doing this as a small group. The first question is, what does screen time and the use of technology look like in your home right now for you and for your family? Secondly, what new rhythms might you consider after we go over the statistics as we aim to honor God and everybody else with our tech devices? And last but not least, what is one change together as a family you think that God's inviting you to step into this coming month? So as always, thank you for joining in on the conversation. How can we use technology to be a blessing? And how can we use it as a tool? And how can we use it as a way that glorifies God? So God bless you as you have the conversation, and we'll talk to you again soon.